when you talk about the straight face, the ongoing event. I adore my wife. It loved from our first conversation and I want so desperately to be close to her. We have been married 8 years. I'm 31, she's 29. We were once very close and intimate when dating and engaged, but now we are not and that breaks my heart. I have been, for the past 5 years, actively pursuing ways to make our marriage better and to be close again. She is not cheating, so please don't suggest that. Recently I have decided that I would focus on meeting her needs and fulfilling her emotionally as well as non-physical touch. Married women, I would love your input. Can you tell me what non-physical things you dream your husband would do for you, say to you, treat you? I am a good man. I am Christian. I am healthy and attractive. My goal in my marriage every day is to treat my wife as she is more precious to me than diamonds. I try so hard, but she is so cold to me. I am not a soft man, but I tear up writing this now because I am so sad. She stays home with our children and I earn a very good wage working only 40 hours, so I am home a lot and we are financially stable. I do most of the cooking and at least half of the cleaning and housework so that we can have more time together. I always hope that she will want to interact with me and most nights ask to do something with her like watch the sunset on the porch or play cards, but she would almost always rather watch a show with earbuds in. She will not kiss me. When I go in for a kiss, she turns a cheek, forehead or gives me a tight lip peck and pulls away. She does not want me touching her unless it is for a back or shoulder rub. Will not cuddle. Won't hold my hand for more than a few minutes. Sometimes she will let me spoon her in bed but elbows me off when she gets too hot every time and even complains if I'm touching her when we wake in the morning. It may be obvious here that our physical life is almost non-existent. It is so difficult as a man to feel loved when your wife will not respond to you in any way physically. Our marriage has been non-physical for most of these 8 years. I do not use videos and have always been faithful to her. She is a wonderful woman and I love her with all I am, but she has lost respect for me, I feel, and it is a deep aching hurt I carry constantly. I make sure she gets at least 2 evenings a week out of the house alone while I take care of the kiddos since she stays home, and that is when she is happiest and wants to talk after getting home for a few minutes. But that's it. No going deeper emotionally. No physical expression of love and closeness. Please help me. I do not know how to cool down the overwhelming love without pushing her away, but I may try it again. I did this 5 to 6 years ago before we had kids for an entire summer and she didn't initiate any words of affection or physical intimacy for 12 weeks. The worst part is that she seemed completely content to be just like roommates. I don't have a real hobby right now because I devote all of the time I can to the children and work on remodeling, cleaning, mowing and yard work after the kids sleep till I'm wiped out. I used to enjoy weightlifting and playing music very much. Perhaps I will pick those up again. I am, or at least have been before, help from wonderful strangers on this thread, afraid of my wife being angry with me for a few reasons. 1. She cuts like a sword with her tongue and becomes verbally abusive to me, often in front of the kids. I don't want the kids to resent her for what she does to me or witness their mother like that. 2. She almost never admits fault or apologizes. So, the more I point out that she is being mean to me or that I don't deserve her cutting words, the more she doubles down and calls me awful things. There have been rare times that she will come to me much after going off the hook and apologize, but then it shifts into a self-deprecating I'm a horrible wife monologue that I want to agree with, but feel obligated to say no, you're wonderful to me. 3. She holds an ugly grudge, and if she gets angry at me on a weekend morning, for instance, it is usually a dark cloud over the day and her attitude stinks. She has lost respect for me. I believe now that I have more or less trained her to walk on me and treat me like crap. I am now trying to change what I can about myself. As a child I was always last priority in my family and my older brother was heavily favored. I'm starting to see that for most of my life I have believed that the people I love are more important than me. My place is serving them. This, I know, is total crap and I am trying to change myself. Odd truth is that I am an alpha outside of these few relationships. I've been the foreman on construction crews. I started and ran a very successful business and had a few crews working for me. I am now a successful development chemist with authority. But I haven't yet been able to shake the self-made doormat approach to the ones I love, but I will get there. She is a brick wall when it comes to communicating about our relationship, and I've given up trying to break the wall down because it only makes things worse. When she is angry, she will say horrible abusive things to me, but those may not be well thought out complaints. Every now and then she will say something like you just don't treat me like you used to, and has no clarification for me when I ask, so I make a point to be much more attentive and intentional about treating her warmly and she withdraws even more. Maybe I have tried too hard all of this time to please her. She is willing to do very little for me. At this point I feel we are both in love with her and meeting her needs is top priority. She has not always been this way. We were still in college when we got married and early on, she became frustrated with our status and income and stressed about what we didn't have. It probably started back then within the first year of our marriage. The physical frequency slowed and almost stopped early on. It's probably at that time I began my journey to where I am now, where I feel like a broken man with everything but his wife's respect and affection. In the back of my mind, I have wondered if she could be, but no. though that would make it all easier to explain. She is only into men. On the rare occasion we have slept together, right now it hasn't been since January. It is incredible and she is very satisfied multiple times. I suppose it could be possible, but not on my radar. I think she is just withdrawn from all things physical with me. We have 3 wonderful children and we both wanted them and love them very much. We make an excellent parenting team but crappy couple right now. The plumbing works great and I am working out but would like to start lifting weights again. Maybe I will take your advice and buy the free weights I want. What I was not telling you I have just learned, that I have conditioned her to walk on me and she has lost all respect for me. The bonding is great for both of us on the very rare, 5 to 10 times a year, occasion that it happens. I would never leave her or replace her but I am thinking now that she needs to see that I could. Her culture is Midwest white folk. I'm more Southern, but mostly Midwest hard-working type. City, not rural. Her parents are together, but they bicker and fight. Her dad is passive and her mom is disrespectful to him. Her dad has an awful temper. Her brothers are pretty good guys, but super stubborn and argumentative. Both alpha type. I have grown up a pastor's son in the shadow of my brother. We are taught that we are supposed to humble ourselves and serve and love our spouses with actions and words and to be gracious and forgiving. She has taken advantage of this in me, so I am changing. Update. I have made very real progress. It took a little while processing and accepting everything, and then being vulnerable and telling the whole truth to my wife. It was very difficult to talk about how I was feeling because it made her feel awful. Now more of everything is out in the open. I catch me returning to bad habits and make better decisions regularly. The nice guy facade is feeling less and less comfortable and I'm happier and getting more comfortable with who I really am and meeting my needs as well as asking others to help me meet them. 2 years later, my wife stays home and 2 of our 3 children are home with her. Oldest is in kindergarten. The guy next door has become a buddy of mine. We'll call him John, but the way he and my wife act together makes me very uncomfortable. I know that she is attracted to him and that's fine. After all, we can't control that, right? I've talked with her twice now using I feel statements. I feel unwanted when you ignore me when I get home from work because John is over and you're talking to him. And I make me feel unimportant when you talk with John so much in the day but won't share with me in the same way. We used to have a group text that became me, my wife and him, and now he's texting my wife, but she is mum or secretive about it. She has been very defensive when I have expressed my feelings and blamed me for something unrelated for which I was guilty. I knew about a bad situation I was in at work and didn't tell her until I had to change departments. I thought I was protecting her from worry but should have shared what I knew, that a manager was trying to get me fired. I wasn't fired and career is still great. Back to John. He is in sales and home a lot during the day while his wife is working and kids are in school. He comes over to my house a lot, 1+ times a week, while I'm not home and his wife is gone. I've been telling myself it's fine because the kids are with her and nothing would happen. But that is so the wrong reason to think nothing will happen, right? I want to believe and trust my wife and I want her to have male friends. But this one makes me uncomfortable because he seems to have her complete attention when we get the families together or when I come home and he's there talking with my wife while my kids are playing. They'll talk and laugh and ignore me, then she'll often be much less talkative and guarded towards me. We're away with John and his family this weekend and it is more of the same. He and my wife are flirting and every time I turn around it seems that they are together, sitting together, talking. This would all be fine if my wife and I had a strong marriage with healthy communication. But we definitely don't, although I am trying. I am the emotional and physical pursuer. She has many emotional walls and bonding is usually great, but very infrequent, 18 times all of last year. There was another time early in our marriage where she was out of town and went out to a club with friends, totally okay, but was drinking and got inappropriate dancing with her friend's fiancé, just dancing. She came clean about that a few years later. I am a good and attractive husband, but her heart seems to be leading her towards him over me when we are both present. I feel like I'm a kid again and my girlfriend is smitten with the popular guy. It sucks. I'm just so sad because I love my wife and want to show my children a strong, faith-based marriage. I've shared with her that these things are hurtful to me and still they continue. I am going to have to talk to my wife about John again. What do I say this time? I am terrified at the thought of being less present in the lives of my children. If it were not for them, I would not be putting up with so much. It just isn't fair to them for a split. None of this was their choosing. My wife wants to work on our relationship so there is hope. I can say with certainty that my life is much better now due to the advice of all of you strangers. Thank you from the bottom of my over-loving sensitive heart. My wife does seem generally happy and I believe that you hit the nail on the head with your guessing about her. I have an excellent career now and earn enough for us to live quite well in Central Texas. We started out in poverty and have climbed out of it together. This year I'll clear $100K, but she still seems to constantly worry over money. She worries so much that she wears herself out and I believe that talking to John is an escape from that. Not meaning to justify here, just trying to rationalize. On our way home from the weekend after kids were asleep in the car, she opened up about John a bit without prompting. complaining about him being cranky. I lead her with questions to consider how their relationship looks from the outside. She mentioned that Jane, or name for John's wife here, complained that if John is not home when she gets off of work, then she knows that he is over at our house. My wife made a point to mention that John never comes in the house when I am not home, and I do believe her, but I'd rather he not come over at all and hang around when I'm not here. I should mention that the weather here is excellent and we all spend a lot of time outside when home. I have been dealing with codependency issues. I am also aware that I tend to be anxiously attached. Some messed up crap in my childhood that I've had to confront and work through, except I wish I had worked through these issues and learned more about myself and the types of people who tend to abuse a man of my nature before I started dating as an adult. She has not given me a reason to distrust her in 11 years, and I want to believe that she is being genuine. It seemed genuine because she got nervous and seemed to be justifying the situation while talking and also realizing how bad it all sounds. We are all 31 to 33 and slim. I'm 6 feet, 155 and nothing jiggles when I go for a run, if you know what I mean. I used to model a bit. I doubt the attraction issue has anything to do with my appearance. More often than not at work I am deflecting the attention of women. I work 45 to 50 hours a week and then care for kids, do housework and law work until 10 p.m. every night. She passed over primary parenting responsibilities when I get home. I don't talk to John's wife except in the presence of John, so I honestly don't know how she feels. She is at work during the school year and also in graduate school a couple evenings a week. My plan is to face it head on again. If she isn't guilty that she is making me feel this way, then that is a huge problem. I think that what is going on started innocently, but very quickly became an E. I was strong in condemning it the first time, and she even cried and talked the whole "I'm a horrible wife, I can't believe you'd even think this of me." But that later became "How dare you condemn me when you're lying about your career situation." I am conflict avoidant with my wife. No problem with conflict in almost any other interaction or relationship. I'm sure there's more to unpack there. I feel she punished me when I confront her. In past times when I have confronted her and put a foot down about her disrespectful treatment, then I got a days-long cold shoulder and a lot of hateful attitude. It's like she is much more willing than me to live in an ongoing crappy fight. We haven't had one of those in a while, and maybe the next one is soon. What's the worst that could happen if I accuse her of an EA? If I'm going to confront her about it, then I may as well, right? I'm not going to wait for audio, video before confronting this again, but will consider VAR deepening on how W acts during and after the conversation. General plan. Wife, we need to talk about John. Your closeness with him is inappropriate and outside of my boundaries. John should not be over here when I am not home. Period. If he needs something from you, then he can call me. The two of you should not be texting each other or talking on the phone or in private. You made a vow to me forsaking all others, and you are breaking that vow. You shouldn't be sharing your emotions with John and having long conversations with him, especially when I am not present. It is disrespectful to me and unhealthy for our children to witness. You've lied to me about talking, texting with him, and argued with me the first time I brought up my concerns with your relationship with John. This is all very concerning, and you can imagine how things look to me. If you wish to continue on the path with John, then you are free to do so, but not as my wife. I have too much respect for myself to allow this to go on any longer. If John is truly the type of man you want, then leave me, but you cannot take the children with you or limit my time with them. They need to see their father as strong and self-respecting, and I feel I have failed them by allowing your relationship with John to get this far. You have to make a choice now. Let me know what you have decided by tomorrow. There seems to be little try on her part. We fight a lot now since I read No Nice Guy a couple of years ago. Honestly, I call her out when she gets angry with me and tell her that I respect myself too much to allow her to treat me that way. This usually turns into her pouting and me going about the rest of my day basically ignoring her because it's a waste of my time trying to make her happy. The best gift that I received from reading was the freedom from caring about her fits, temper. I'm not perfect, but I'm not degrading and hurtful to her like she is to me. Most of the time things are okay between us and she can be awesome, but damn that temper. She gets mad and she's out for blood. She is not evil, nor is she perfect. She is just the one that I chose. The bloom is off of the rose. Update, I'm collecting data. Also, my wife has strep throat. No, John did not come back from our trip with strep as well, but his daughter did. Phone record is clean. Hasn't called John or any other man, not even her brother. I was able to match all of the numbers with repeated conversations to contacts, just a few girlfriends and family members. The text didn't start without me until a week ago before our weekend at the lake with John's family, and it's all about getting a cake for John's wife's birthday and getting our houses ready. We rented out on a place for that weekend. Side note, it's important to note that my wife was upset that John took all the credit for the cake, which was his wife's favorite and a big birthday surprise and my wife's idea. My wife even bought the cake. John's wife loved it and was really happy with him for the cake, and that all bothered my wife. It is so alarming to me that my wife got miffed at John scoring with his wife. Huge red flag for the she's already screwing John crowd, I know. The texts would drop off and pick up in ways that left it a disconnected conversation, leading me to think that it is a bridge between conversations in person. Questions are asked and then never answered in text, but conversation picks up hours later about what to pack for trip or some other innocent-sounding thing. I honestly don't believe that they are kissing or rubbing yet, but things are moving in that direction and neither John nor my wife are putting a stop to it. My daughter, who stays home, is 4 and adores me. She would never lie to me. I'm going to ask her if Mr. John ever comes in our house while Daddy is working. There is no reason to suspect a Pia, nor is there much to show in the way of Ia. There is, however, the matter of her complete attention to him, in a way that I wish she would give her attention to me. I believe that is the root of me feeling awful. Here is this guy who is an alpha. He's brash and a bit of a jerk sometimes, and my wife respects him more than me. I realize that I have played into this over the past decade by failing to set healthy boundaries and being a pushover to the point of her losing respect for me. Here's the deal. I never have been. I'm not going to start dropping ultimatums and threatening divorce for theatrical effect. It's not my fault that she is acting this way. It is her choice. It is my fault for allowing it to go on without making a firm stand and setting clear boundaries and not moving them. The answer was in front of me all along, that she gives him her attention at the expense of me and her children. That's clear as day and the only accusation I have to make at this point. I am going to set a clear boundary that I'm not okay with them being together without me or John's wife for any reason, whether the kids want to play together or not, and that I'm not okay with them texting as they have been. I'm going to call her out on the undivided attention that she gives him in my presence and express how hurtful and disrespectful that is, and that I'm mad about it. Update: I did it. I had the conversation. I said what needed to be said and it was uncomfortable, as it should be. I lead by saying we need to talk about John and I've waited longer than I should have to do this. I said, you and John have crossed boundaries of mine long ago. I told her that this has been eating at me and I owe it to her to do this. John should not be coming over to visit you, especially when I'm not home. It's inappropriate and makes me very uncomfortable. I spoke, and the fact that his wife is at work and I'm working and he comes over here knowing that is very concerning. I'm not okay with it. I went on to say that if you want to be my wife, that means having a very clear line between the closeness you have with me and the level of closeness you have with any other man, and said I'm sick of playing second fiddle to John when he's around and having to work for your attention because the two of you are so focused on each other. I capped it with, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you where my line is if you want to be with me and you've crossed it. Have I been clear? She started to interrupt early on when I mentioned the texts between them. I expect to accuse me of invading her privacy, but she stopped herself before getting a word out. She has hardly said a word since and seems angry, hurt, and at the point of tears just sitting there in bed. I feel much better already and want to thank you all. Now, how do you think I've done? How do you advise I move forward, TAM community? I should mention that John's wife is a teacher and school is out today, so I expect John's attention to be much less since his wife will be home. Oh, and I still have to talk to John. I told my wife that I would be talking to him soon and letting him know that he is no longer welcome to come over and visit my wife when I'm not home. I actually did end up laying out the consequences by stating that she would need to have a clear line between me and every other man if she wants to be my wife. It was like vomiting for me to get those words out, but I feel much better now that I've done what I think is right. I wanted to speak with my wife before John. Not that I have talked with her. I am going to have the conversation with John. I don't plan to bring his wife into any of this because their marriage is none of my business and I have proof of nothing. I expect John will respect my boundary. I will be brief and direct. Update: things are going surprisingly well. Wife was quiet and distant for the first day, but I stayed steadfast and ignored it, just kept on doing my thing, giving attention to the kids, having fun, etc. I was kind and cordial but did not pursue her. She came around pretty quickly. John is on vacation with his family, but I will talk to him man to man when he returns. Wife got really angry and downright mean at me over nothing this weekend. I stood up to her and said that I respected myself too much to continue allowing her to treat me like that. I didn't say much but was firm in what I did say. Half an hour later she apologized and has been nice since. I'm not sure what the next step is in my marriage after laying down the law with John, but there is need for improvement everywhere. She and our 3 kids are visiting our parents next week. I'll be apart from here 9 days. I'll miss them all, but I think this could be very helpful right now to spend some time apart. I kind of want to unplug for a bit and see if she will come towards me emotionally. Not to play games, just that I'm tired of chasing her all the time and asking for closeness, you know. I should mention wife has offered to do whatever I wish about John and his family, including cutting them out, selling our house, etc. The consequences had to sink in for a while, but she did break. I will be forthright. We've had slept together twice a month this year, which is the most regularly it has been in years, 10 times so far this year. I am always the initiator. I have to pay close attention to her cycle and initiate based on when she has desire. I'll tell her that I want her, that I love and desire her. She usually will say no unless it is on a Friday night, set a morning at the right time in her cycle. When she says no, it's a cold no with one of a few excuses about being tired, exhausted, sore back. When she says yes, she's pretty awkward until she is turned on. I want to sleep with her much more often, 3 to 4 times a week, but I don't pester or beg anymore like I used to. You're right that she has no desire for me now. I don't believe there is any physiological problem limiting her desire. I believe it is determined by how she feels in our relationship and how she sees me. She does not initiate any physical contact with me at all. Period. It's so sad to me because physical touch is extremely important to me and I just go without. At times in years past I've stopped initiating contact and bonding to see how long it would take for her to notice. At one point it went past 11 weeks. I don't know that she even noticed. There was no physical affection from her parents growing up. Even now they give her a quick awkward side hug when saying goodbye to her. It's so sad to me. My wife no longer likes to kiss unless overwhelmed with passion. The bonding is usually great and very satisfying for both of us. She then quickly reverts to modesty and will not speak of it again. She refuses to talk about our physical life and takes it as attack and criticism when I try to have conversations about bonding. I make a point to show her affection in front of my children and she plays along, even lets me kiss her. She will hold my hand when we walk together on a date, but not for long. She is open to marriage counseling but would not like spending the money on the counselor and babysitting for our 3 kiddos every session. Has anyone here tried counseling over Skype? Few months later, things are up and down. There was progress and now setback. Wife is now working out with John's wife 4 to 6 nights a week. She has become fast friends with John's wife. We were very open in discussing her being over there and level of contact with him while I'm home at first, but now I feel in the dark. Bonding frequency got better for a month or so after one of my wife's closet friends got divorced because her husband wasn't having sex with her. Now my wife is happier and getting very fit and I support that in her independence, but I'm getting uncomfortable with how much it seems that John is around while she's over there hot and sweaty working out with the wife in their garage. My comment: she feigned appeasement for enough time to get you off her back. Now that you have returned to net zero she has very craftily outmaneuvered you. The straight run down the middle was no longer working, so now she is running the sweep play to the outside to gain yardage. The working out with the OM's wife is her plan to keep her friend close and her enemy closer. If you cannot see this, you are beyond our help. If you do see this, you need to have a sit down with OMW and tell her what you think is going on between her husband and your WW. I guarantee you your WW and the OM have taken the affair underground. They are communicating somehow. You need to find out how. Wake up, man. Your wife is a bad wife. Plain and simple. A mean, selfish wife. There, I said it twice.